welcome to another episode of GameGuru MAX live broadcast number 77, and I'm going to show you a little bit more this week. As you know, or you might know, this is how we look at the internal development of GameGuru MAX, see what's going on behind the scenes. Sometimes we have a few wires hanging out when we're doing these broadcasts, and this one in particular is no exception, and you'll know what I mean about halfway through this broadcast. But before that, I just want to make sure that everyone can hear me fine. It's a little ritual of ours, so bear with us. Yes, you can hear me. Great, wonderful. I have a live chat on the right-hand side of the screen. You can't see it, but I'll bring it in a little bit later. If you weren't part of the live chat, please feel free to ask any questions. Stick a question mark at the end, and I'll answer a few of them verbally towards the end of this broadcast. The ones I don't get to, I will answer in the GameGuru forums along with, and post it along with a recording of this broadcast. So let me get stuck right into the software so I can show you the thing I've been working on. Two things really. When I say I mean team. There is no I in TEAM. Okay. So let's get into what I want to show. I think I put it in, it was Lee Game and Happy 2. Okay, this is the first thing I'd like to show you. Obviously, this is one of the biomes that we've created. Sculpting tools now works. I'm just going to clear out this grass area. I'm also going to clear away a few trees to give myself some room. Reason being is I want to show you this. If we go to Add, Building, and drop it in, did you notice what just happened then? It's subtle. I don't know if you saw it, but if I just show you this, look at that. This ground is uneven. It's a naturally procedurally generated terrain. You see it slopes upward, but when I added the building, there's a new mode called auto-flatten. And the idea is that this auto-flatten will flatten the terrain underneath the building so the building can sit quite happily on the floor. So let me give you a more extreme example. Let's go up onto this here, look. Yeah, let's do, this is a nice clear area, but let me show you something. If I add another building, like so, dink. That's a more extreme example. So now it's actually not messed about with your building or made it slope at 45-degree angles. Somebody decided to put a building here. And so we made sure that around the outside, the terrain system took care of making sure that that foundation almost historically existed before the building was available. Now, as you can see, it's a bit extreme. I don't think nature quite look. I mean, sure, you could curve a cliff face out of rock like this, but it's a little bit striking. We don't want it to be that obtuse. So we are working on some feathering technologies. So instead of it just being a sharp drop, it actually it has a weight, so it just sort of blends off a little bit. It's a little bit more in keeping with the nature and natural environment around the building. But let me just clear another area over here, because the reason I've been clearing them for grass and trees is currently it just does the geometry. It just flattens the visual geometry. What will actually happen as well, it will clear out all the grasses and all the trees. There's no point having grasses and trees inside your building, and so we make sure that that is the case. So if I say I drag this building over here, like so, you actually see that it's figured that out again. But one of the other things we're going to do is when you drag them in and then move, look what it's doing. It's actually restoring the original terrain. So you're not going to drop all these buildings around and actually stamp all these cubes everywhere. It'll actually take care of putting back the original procedural landscape and the grasses and the trees. And so effectively you can just drop in a building anywhere you would like, and then the building is placed down for you. Now, we did originally have this idea where your building would, even as you move it, you can see the terrain deform. But there's a big problem with that. The raycast actually detects where the mouse pointer is pointing at that dot of terrain to figure out where to place the building. But it's this sort of feedback loop. If you then find that dot on the floor, then you move the floor in order to flatten it. The dot's just moved. So then it feeds back, oh, that's the new position. And so then it uses that and positions it again. So it ends up jiggling around. So the current system, and we're going to keep working out until we're happy with all of the other finesses, is that you can certainly drag your building around. And it does the auto stuff like that. but when you drag in the building for the first time, it doesn't do the auto flatten. It literally lets you place it down like any other regular object. You know, over here, here, here. But now you no longer have that horrible, it's not horrible, that time-consuming job of now flattening the terrain underneath and clearing all the grasses and the trees. I just click and it will clear all the grasses, clear all the trees, nice feathering the flat area to your terrain, and you're done and dusted. So you can just instantly drop a building in, don't have to worry about all of the time-consuming editing that's involved in incorporating that building into your environment. So as you can see, as I said earlier, it's wires hanging out, it's a work in progress. We're not a million miles away from having it finished. There's just a few little things that's letting it down visually. So bear with me. This will actually be part of this Friday's build. If you're a pre-order user, you'll be able to download this in 2 days. And all of the buildings in the buildings category, so all of these in the buildings collection, will all be auto set to flatten. So whatever building you select, it will auto flatten. I think there's also some shantytown buildings in the shantytown collection. Yeah, here they are. I'm tempted to auto flatten for these as well. So large building style structures, I think it makes perfect sense to auto flatten. And one thing I can't demonstrate now, but I will have it for Friday, is we have circular formations as well. You see this cylinder, which is basically circular. We can actually flatten a circular shape as well as a rectangular shape. So look out for that. So the other thing I want to show you, not really show you, just to mention it really quickly. If I, where shall I go? Okay, I'll go back into this. This is the latest thing I've been working on. Like so. Typical thing you might create, big, massive, flat, empty level with some small deformations here. Now traditionally it would still generate quite a lot of terrain physics and polygons all the way around this, and it would take a while. But if I click this one now, this is a fresh level that I've just loaded in. You can see it only took about 4 seconds to do the entire landscape. That's the entire editable area now has proper physics. If I come out, go back in, it's now taken less than 2 seconds, more like 1 second. And the reason for that, and this is where I really stray off the map, is if I go to physics, render physics, before it was just a uniform grid and it took up a lot of memory and it took a long time to process. Look at what's actually happening now. This is the physics geometry. You see it's now split up into clever quads. It only uses detail where it's needed. See? Big, huge polygons when it's all flat, and then it ramps up the density of the polygons when the hills require it. Why, I hear, did I do that? It wasn't just about performance. There was an outstanding bug where on certain steep bits you could actually get the camera inside the terrain. Well, thanks to this, it's basically the ideal 2 birds with 1 stone. Not only did we solve the camera penetration into the terrain, but in doing so we vastly speeded up the generation of terrain physics. And for my next trick, I'm probably going to pass this physics mesh to the AI, the nav mesh calculation, which in theory should also speed that up because it has less polygons to deal with, considerably less. And as I was working on this, I also spotted some further optimizations that excited me, but I needed to move on, so I stopped to a point where I thought, yeah, that does everything that we needed to do, let's go on to the next thing. But expect more exciting things in the worlds of terrain physics moving forward. So just glancing to my right, there are some questions, so I'm going to drag these across and we'll answer as many as we can, starting at the top. And just make sure there's no questions right at the beginning. Some people are throwing their questions, their burning question right at the beginning of the chat, but it looks like we're okay and we've got past all that. Everyone can hear me, which is awesome. And yes, Happy New Year to everybody. 2022, in my humble opinion, is going to be amazing and massive. So I'm really looking forward to 2022 in a big way, for obvious reasons. So let's find a question for you. Here's the first question from DJ Ellis Lee. Is there any way you can stop the vegetation looking so quad obvious to make it look better with Jen looking down? when looking down. Most grasses are a form of sort of polygon trick. Even modern games today, if you look closely at the grass, they are basically just a small collection of polygons cleverly placed on the floor. Most people don't look straight down on their grasses. We do have some things that we're going to do. We're certainly going to match the grasses and terrains up better. So when you do look down, it's not as obvious that the grass blade and the flat terrain textured floor are two different things. There would be good blending, good use of texture complements, and you won't really notice it when you look straight down. But we're also going to have a bit of a fiddle with the grass density as well, to see if increasing the density in areas would allow us to have that better look when you're looking more down than across, without sacrificing performance. But we want to make sure performance isn't sacrificed as a result. So bear with us while we improve all the different biomes, because we have some work to do now on making sure each biome looks as good as it can for our March release. And then we'll look at the grass again and see if there's any more that needs to be worked on. Another question. Oops. Another question. Bellydos 3D. I love how everyone was saying yes, we can hear you before you had even said anything. Well, no, please don't just say yes, we can hear you if you can hear the music. The thing is, I want if you can hear my voice, because the music could be on a different channel for all I knew. And then if I start speaking, you just think you're listening to music all day, and actually I've been talking for 10 minutes. So as soon as you hear my sultry tune, then please do post that little thing in the chat for next Wednesday's broadcast. Okay, looking for a question. This looks like a question mark with multiple parts. This is from Eric Turpin. Hello, could you show us in the future stream how to combine behaviours for characters? Example, enemy AI is patrolling, enemy shoots at the player, enemy detects where shooting comes from, etc. Funny you should say that. It was only a recent introduction that one behaviour can spawn another behaviour. So even now, a soldier logic, if you drop in a soldier attack behaviour, if the soldier has nothing to attack, it switches to a patrol behaviour, and then it does a patrol. And the patrol has a clever thing which says, oh, if you see someone, an armed and aggressive character, switch to the original one, which the original one would be in soldier attack. So it bounces back to that. Benefit, of course, is you don't have to create all the logic inside one massive behaviour. You can compartmentalise. It's not super tree-like. It's essentially you've got a parent behaviour, and that parent behaviour can call another behaviour. When that behaviour finishes, it exits and it goes back to its parent. That way we're not getting very confused about invisible where the behaviour call is now. But it is certainly useful for modularising certain behaviours. As to showing you how that works, let me work a little bit more on AI. I'd like to finish up a little issues with the zombie and do a lot more with the soldiers, making them more reactive and more like you'd expect from a modern game. Once I get to that, then yes, I'll be very happy to show you how the modular system works. But as I say, it's probably more of an advanced feature. Most people just drag in a soldier, press test level, and play their game. Okay, just looking for another question mark and scroll down to Kevin Hampson. Is the terrain still editable around the building? There is not much gap at the back of the building. Oh yeah. The flattened area is the bit you can't change because you want to support your building. But everything that then fades off and gradually into the procedural height data, you can still edit that. So you can flatten it out so it's not a ridge, and then you can do your own sort of subtle slopes. Everything around the building totally editable, but just that pure flat area right into the building, there's no point in editing that. The only thing you do is make a hole, in which case the floor of the building won't let you see it, or a hill, in which case there's a hill right in the middle of the building, which makes no sense. So we're going to lock just that part. But yeah, everything outside of the solid 100% weight can be edited in the usual way with terrain sculpting tools. Okay, another question is further. Oh, it just moved on me. Here we go. This is from Nomad Soul. Is the Soldier Combat AI still working, or is it being changed? It's certainly been improved. I've got a lot of different clever things going on in there, but all of them need tweaking and a few little additions going on. Plus, we're going to improve how the death sequences work for characters as well. So lots of stuff still happening. Don't think it's the final version, and yes, it's certainly in the process of being changed, but not wholesale. We're not throwing it away and starting again. We're generally happy with it. We just need to do lots of tweaks and making sure that it matches a modern game experience. Lustanzian Mappings asks, why not HUDs? Question mark, question mark, question mark. You do get HUDs. If you drop in a weapon, it will show you your ammo count and your current ammo and your rounds and your clips. If you drop in a player start marker, you also get a health, so you can see how much health you've got, and then when you get damaged, that health drops. So you do have HUDs in GameGuru MAX. Okay, it's a question mark from Voxel Empire. They could improve the destruction of objects more easily. Could they? Wonderful. Well, if you can tell them to send it to me, that would be awesome. Thank you very much. Okay, you're looking for another question. Another one from listener named Martin. Why no types of waters? Oceans water, rivers waters, lakes waters. Why not waterfalls? We have water. We have oceans. So you can actually have a very wavy ocean on the edges. You can also have mill ponds and still lakes in the middle of your landmass. So those are the two things you can create. We certainly have aspirations to do other things like rivers and waterfalls, etc., but not for the March release. We've got other things to focus on. I think we'll probably look more at water when we do more with water, such as proper underwater gameplay and things like that. And of course, you might want to find a door behind a waterfall, which is always very cool. Not to say you can't do it right now, it's just for that point you're probably going to need some artistic skills and some animating texture skills in order to make all that happen if you wanted it when you get the March version. Question from Martin Mulver. When will we get instancing on static and dynamic objects? Well, it's already really built in. The Wicked engine does a really cool trick where if you've got a lot of the same object close together, it knows that and it groups them up into an instance call. So it's one mesh and it draws it with 5 instances. The only reason it's not really showing up the performance yet is each object in GameGuru MAX is using a custom material, which breaks that. You can't have multiple instances if each instance is a slightly different material, even if the settings are identical with each other. So what we want to do is, that's an optimization where we recognize that a lot of the materials haven't changed, so we can switch that off and then it'll instantly kick in where you get your instancing back. So it is in there, we just need to make sure that the custom materials don't mess it up. Question from OG Rentals and More. That sounds like an advertisement. Where settings in GameGuru MAX can help improve performance? Question mark. Funny you should say that. I was just perusing some of the commits from the team, and one of them is the ability to change the performance level from low, medium, high, and ultra. We all feel we don't really need ultra, so we're probably going to go with low, medium, high, but that is actually going to be a setting that you can get at and play around with to match the specification of the PC that you're currently running. So keep an eye out for that. Really nice addition, and that will also extend to the standalone game. When you go into the standalone game and you go into the in-game menu, there's a graphics menu inside there, low, medium, high. When you select those, it will actually kick in that performance metric. So your end users who play your game can also have access to whether they want low, medium, or high settings. Just checking the clock, we've bashed past the 15-minute mark, as we always do, and also the 20-minute mark. And I can easily talk for a very long time, but I always train myself. As soon as we get over the 20 minutes, I pick 2 questions, and the rest I will absolutely answer, probably with a little bit more detail in the forums later on. So let's see who's asked a question, and I haven't answered that question before. So unique question, peoples. This is someone who's not asked a question before. Smooth Forsyth. If I bought the expanded weapons pack for GameGuru Classic, will it be usable in Max if I import them? Also, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you too. I wouldn't make it a strategy to buy any GameGuru Classic DLCs and expect them to move across effortlessly into Max. It is true that a certain amount of assets can port over, so your existing collections in Classic can port over to some degree with GameGuru MAX. But it won't be this 100% compatibility with Max, and especially for things like characters and weapons and stuff that has a lot of mechanical parts. So I would say just hold back on augmenting your weapons collection until we've released GameGuru MAX in March, when you'll know a lot more about what we've delivered in that product and what our plans are after that. But you can certainly buy the enhanced weapons pack if you want to create some games in Classic. Classic's pretty solid now, as evidenced by the almost empty issues board for the bugs being reported there. So yeah, that's where we are right now. I'll know more myself in March. Moving on. Looking for another question mark. Who's not asked one yet? Voxel Empire has asked a question. Steve Bovis hasn't asked a question before. Can we have weapons that shoot beams, as in sci-fi shooters, other than base shooters like classic GG? We don't have any weapons planned which shoot out beams, but you're right. That's definitely sounds like a sci-fi theme. And we do, or we've kind of hinted at sci-fi with the 2 bonus characters we've given to all pre-order users, which suits a little bit futuristic, which I'm really liking, and I would like to take that further, but not for this March release. But it's definitely a cool genre that we'd like to explore, and it fits nicely with the whole shooter genre as well. So me personally, I would like to see beams, lightning cannons, other cool sci-fi weapons, but right now there's nothing on the drawing boards. Nothing's being worked on like that. That's probably going to be some future DLC where we'd spend some time doing some nice weapons, some sci-fi characters, some scenery, put it all together, and then you got something really cool you can instantly make sci-fi games with. Sci-fi shooter games, I should say. Okay, so that's the last of the questions. The rest, as I promised, I will answer in the forums later on, once I've made this recording and edited it and then put it up onto our YouTube channel. So until next Wednesday, I will be broadcasting every Wednesday, for those who don't know, every 4 PM GMT. Thank you very much for your kind attention, and I look forward to presenting more internal GameGuru MAX development stuffs next week. So until then, goodbye.